So today I wanted to share something that I think it's a very, very useful thing. It takes about 5 minutes to do this. And of course this is the Suzuki GS manual. It's a real good manual in a lot of ways. Has a lot of good tips in it. A lot of good things. We're coming up with our GS on time to adjust the valves. And this is a handy little, you can't believe how handy this is. It's almost a mandatory thing when you're going to do this kind of maintenance. Now what this is for is, and I've marked the front, is just from the manual, and you could do this as you take the part off, of course. A lot of different ways to do this, but I just thought I'd share this. Obviously we had pizza last night, but here's the thing. What I'm going to do is go over to the drill press and just drill all the appropriate holes. It doesn't have to be like, I can imagine somebody that's a lot more fanatical. You could trace out the real gasket. You could use the old, there's a million things you could do. This is what works for me. Whenever I've adjusted the valves on the GS, there's certain bolts have to go in certain spots. Some have washers, some don't have washers. So what I like to do, that serves two purposes for me. I can take this bolt out, drop it in a hole. I can take this bolt out, drop it in a hole. I can do, now when I put it back together, I can take that bolt and put it, so in essence what happens is the bolt goes back into the original hole. Now again, this could be bordering on being too fanatical, too fussy. Here's the reason I like to do it this way, is because at some point in time when I have all the bolts in here, what's going to happen is I want to take one out, polish the head, clean it up, take that one out. I don't want to switch them. Some of them are different. Some have washers, some have rubber washers. It's amazing. If you throw them into a pile, yeah, it can be a problem. So anyway, I thought this would be a thing worth sharing. Everybody I know eats pizza, so save a box lid. No matter what part you're doing, and even there's a certain thing, even on an RD, there are parts on the side cover where some of the bolts are long, some are too short, some you could switch them, but then you'd bottom out the bolt. Making a little schematic like this before you do any kind of a job, especially if you're not doing it every day. Like, I'm not a real mechanic, so I only do this once every couple of years. This bike has 44,000 miles roughly, so it's time for an adjustment of the valves. But now here's the point I wanted to make. A couple other little things, as long as we're talking about good little tips. This bike recently needed to change out the voltage regulator. I had a spare bike, so that wasn't a big deal. But what I always do is, from the past, every time I've done maintenance on the bike, something that I've downloaded the information, I've downloaded stuff off of other manuals, and I've made notes of what I did. And in this case, this just as an example, this was one of the things I had replaced a fuel gauge, and I had taken a lot of notes. I have a little notebook. I have the shop manual, and I have the stuff I've downloaded from the GS. This is a great resource, by the way. Let me give them a little shot. The GS Garage, they had a lot of good information. I've used it all. Luciano has been a big help. But I just feel like this is one of the tips a lot of people might not think about. You'd go to do this kind of a thing is very simple. You take the valve cover off. The valves are front and back. They have the little adjusting screws. It's not a big deal to do it. They get set to 3 to 5 thousandths. I have a 4 thousandths feeler gauge. I'm going to make a separate video. I went to YouTube and there's not a single video on how to adjust the GS valves. And that's very similar on a lot of other motorcycles. So I'm going to do that as a separate video. I thought I'd share this as a separate video. And my notes, and I would say anybody that you buy any 35-year-old motorcycle, you should have the manual for it. That goes without saying. But a quick way to ensure that the bolts go back in the right spot, even if you don't polish them, even if you don't clean them. Now, another thing, and this is part of what I always try to do, as long as I'm going to do a valve adjustment, I'm going to have the valve cover off the bike. This would be a great time, since we're in the middle of the winter right now, we're not riding every day. While I have it apart, I'll make another separate video of polishing out the valve cover. Now, in the past, I've only polished the edges because you don't see the part under the tank, but in reality, you do if you look in from certain angles. So I thought, while I have it apart, I can kill two birds with one stone, and I've always tried to convince people that's a good way to work on things. This is going to be a handy little tool when we do that. I did not want to, I don't want to make the videos, you know, an hour long, so I try to break it up into segments. We'll make a video of actually doing the valve adjustment, I'm sure, because nobody else has one out on YouTube yet. That'll be helpful to a lot of people. And what I always do too is I always look at on YouTube because other people have better ideas than I do, and I can kind of, as long as I'm sharing, I want to take the stuff that they've shared. But I don't know if anybody put this out there yet, but this is one. No matter what part, even if you're taking a side cover off a bike where the clutch is, or another example, when you take the clutch plates apart and you have all the bolts, it just makes, this is a great tip. It makes it a lot easier. Now, since these are 10mm bolts, a big Phillips screwdriver, you can do this with a drill or whatever, but I just wanted to show one of these. Just take an ordinary Phillips screwdriver, make sure your hand isn't right underneath it. And now here's what you want to have is when you put the bolt in here, I don't have a bolt out, you want it to stick. You don't want to turn it and they all fall out. So making it a little on the rough side, I wouldn't try to smooth it out or just leave it rough like that. And I think when we go to do that, which is going to be in the next week or so, I don't really know what day. I'm waiting for a day that I don't have any babysitting obligations or anything like that. Because this is going to be a time-consuming thing. But it is good information, and all I can ever do or hope to do is share the amount of information that I know and try to, from other people that share things on YouTube, thank them for putting it all out there. Now, I've also had to order a gasket, and if you've ever taken a GS apart, any of the GS's, that gasket is a bear to get everything lined up on. It's a little more involved than it looks when you first start, but not an undoable thing, that's for sure. And what I want to do is that'll be a separate video, of course. I want to show there's a couple little tricks I have for cleaning things up, putting grease on both sides of the gasket, not gasket sealer. Oh my God! And you'll never get you'll never get it all off. You'll be here with a razor blade and all this stuff falls into the engine. The grease in both sides of the gasket is a really good trick, and Luciano has confirmed that, and Pete, other people I know that are old school mechanics that really know this stuff. So like I said, what this is going to do, I've had this apart many times already, and I only polished out here where you would really see it. But if you really look, you can see up in there. And now that we're going to do a little upgrade and we're in the middle of our winter, it's pretty much not going to ride every day, that's for sure. But having this all polished in here, this will really add a nice little touch to, well, I hope to the engine. And as I said this before, we have at least 2 or 3 videos out on polishing this engine. And the original one I made of polishing the engine, all I remember is within a couple of days I had like 35,000 hits, so I was real happy with that the information is getting out to the real world. So today really begins the winter, I guess, working on motorcycle season. There's snow outside. I've got a list of the projects I want to do, and the first one is going to be on my own fleet of motorcycles and other stuff. The first thing I want to do is that valve cover, valve adjustment. I started with getting the parts ready for that today. I wanted to do on the Ninja, I had a couple things I wanted to do that I made a little list, and there's always something that I want to take off and polish or clean or rebuild or redo. And of course the usual thing is, before the summer riding season gets here, is renew any of the tires that are worn out. We did a lot of riding this summer, and there's quite a few of them will be ready very soon for some new tires. And I always have plenty of inspiration in this garage. When I come out here, I try to share this with people. I not only enjoy riding these motorcycles, I enjoy the little projects that we do on them, the sharing of the information. And as I say to the people at Perry's even, when you have a bunch of old motorcycles, you always have some good stories to share. There's always something happening. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and go shovel some snow. So as I'm waiting for the baby to get here today, holy mackerel, it looks like it's warming up. If we didn't have this snow on the ground, I'd probably be going for a ride, but looks like it's melting up. Anyway, hope you enjoyed sharing the video, and thanks so much for watching. And looking at the snow on my work table, I know spring is right around the corner. Oh, is it ever? Wow, it's never further away than today. So you can tell, not only am I good at, I'm really good at other things around the house, like emptying the garbage and stuff, but now I'm a cookie meister. Karen has me making cookies, and as I'm making cookies, Jose calls on the phone, and Karen rats me out. She says, he can't go riding today. He's making cookies. Oh man, it is fun making cookies though. It's gonna be a lot more fun eating them now. Gonna make some more green coconut. By the way, this is not lettuce, it's coconut. Green coconut. I can't wait to see these come out of the oven, baby. Everything Karen does, of course, is wonderful, beautiful, delicious. Why we love this time of the year so much. Today's cookies are called Coconut Clouds. Can't wait to see when they come out of the oven. That's green coconut. The moment of truth. The real moment of truth. We gotta take and eat one. Oh, they look great. The coconut just browned up just a little bit.
Yep.
Oh my God, they look good. So here's what I wish I could do with a camera, but I can't. I wish I could capture the cookie smell. It's amazing. It permeates the whole house. I can smell it out in the garage while I'm working.
Oh,
Let them cool off.
they're a
little too brown? All right, well, then I'll have to eat them. I don't want to give them to company if they're too brown. I'll punish myself. I'll eat them all.